The woman collapsed against the weathered fence post at the edge of St. George, Utah, her vision swimming with black spots as the scorching August sun beat down mercilessly on her bare head. Amelia Fairweather had been walking for 3 days without food, her canteen empty since yesterday morning, and now her legs simply refused to carry her another step forward. The red sandstone cliffs surrounding the small settlement blurred and doubled as she tried to focus, her stomach cramping so violently she had to wrap both arms around her middle and sink to her knees in the dusty earth. She was 22 years old and certain she was going to die here, alone and forgotten, just another casualty of the unforgiving Western territories in the summer of 1878. August Xenakis had been mending the fence line when he spotted her, a dark shape crumpling against his property boundary like a discarded coat. He dropped his tools immediately and ran, his long legs covering the distance in seconds. Up close, he could see she was young, probably close to his own 24 years, with tangled dark hair and a face burned raw by the sun. Her lips were cracked and bleeding, her dress torn and filthy from hard travel. When he knelt beside her and gently touched her shoulder, her eyes fluttered open, revealing irises the color of honey, glazed with pain and desperation. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Water, food, anything." "Easy now," August said, his voice low and calm. He had seen this before, travelers who pushed themselves too far without provisions. "When did you last eat?" 3 days. The words came out broken and hoarse. "Maybe 4. I lost count." August's jaw tightened. 4 days without food in this heat was a death sentence. He could see how her hands trembled against the ground, how her body seemed to be folding in on itself. "I am going to help you, but you have to trust me. If you eat too fast after starving this long, it will make you sick. Very sick. Do you understand?" She nodded weakly, tears cutting tracks through the dust on her cheeks. "I understand. Just please, I am so hungry I cannot stand up anymore. You do not have to stand." August slipped his arms beneath her knees and shoulders, lifting her as carefully as if she were made of glass. She weighed almost nothing, and that worried him more than anything. He carried her across the yard toward his small ranch house, moving smoothly so as not to jostle her too much. She turned her face against his chest, and he felt the dampness of her tears soaking through his shirt. The house was modest but clean, a 2-room structure he had built himself 3 years ago when he first settled in St. George. He kicked the door open and carried her to his bed, the only one in the house, setting her down gently on the quilts his mother had sent from back east. Amelia tried to sit up, but her arms gave out and she fell back against the pillows with a small cry of frustration. "Stay still," August ordered, his tone gentle but firm. "I need you to stay calm and let me take care of this properly." He went to the kitchen and filled a tin cup with cool water from the pump, then returned to her side. Supporting her head with one hand, he brought the cup to her lips. Small sips, just a little at a time. The moment the water touched her mouth, Amelia tried to grab the cup and gulp it down, but August pulled it back. "No. I know you are desperate, but if you drink too fast right now, you will vomit it all back up and feel worse than before. Small sips. Trust me." She looked up at him with those honey-colored eyes, and he saw the war between her body's screaming need and her rational mind. Finally, she nodded. He brought the cup back to her lips and let her take a tiny sip, then another, spacing them out over several minutes. When the cup was half empty, he set it aside. "That is enough water for now. In a few minutes you can have more. Now I am going to make you some broth, but it is going to take time. Can you be patient?" "I will try," she whispered. "What is your name?" "August Xenakis, and you are?" "Amelia Fairweather." She closed her eyes briefly, exhausted from even this small interaction. Thank you for not letting me die out there. You are not going to die, not on my watch." He studied her face, noting the fine bone structure beneath the sunburn and grime. Even in this state, he could see she was beautiful. "Where were you headed? St. George is not exactly on the main routes." "I was trying to reach California. My stage broke an axle 2 days north of here, and the driver said he would go for help. He never came back. The other passengers had horses or decided to wait, but I thought I could walk here. I had some food, but it ran out." Her voice broke. "I did not know it would be this far. I did not know anything." August felt a surge of anger at the stage driver who had abandoned her, but he pushed it down. Right now, his priority was getting food into this woman without making her condition worse. "You rest. I am going to start cooking." In the kitchen, he moved with practiced efficiency. He had a beef bone in the cold box that he had been saving for soup, and he put it in a pot with water and set it on the stove to simmer. It would take at least an hour to make a proper broth, but that was actually good. It would give Amelia's stomach time to adjust to the small amount of water she had consumed. He added a pinch of salt and some dried herbs, then went back to check on her. She had fallen into an uneasy doze, her breathing shallow and rapid. August sat in the chair beside the bed and watched her, noting every detail. Her hands were small and delicate, but he could see calluses that suggested she had done hard work at some point. Her dress had once been a nice traveling outfit, though now it was ruined beyond repair. Everything about her suggested a woman who had been respectable and cared for before some misfortune had landed her on that broken stage heading west. After 20 minutes, he woke her gently and gave her more water, again making sure she took only small sips. She was more alert this time, able to hold the cup herself with his hand steadying hers. "The broth will be ready soon," he told her. "It smells good already." "You are very kind," Amelia said softly. "I do not even know how to repay you. You do not owe me anything. This is what neighbors do out here. We help each other survive." He set the cup aside and studied her. "Do you have any family in California? Anyone expecting you?" Her expression clouded. "I have an aunt in Sacramento, or I did. I have not seen her in 5 years. I was supposed to marry a man in Philadelphia, but I could not go through with it. He was older, cruel. My parents arranged it because his family had money and my father had debts. I ran." She looked away, shame coloring her sunburned cheeks. "I stole money from the household funds and bought a ticket west. I am not a good person." "You are a person who chose freedom over cruelty. That does not make you bad." August's voice was firm. "It makes you brave. Foolish, perhaps, to run without proper preparation, but brave." "Foolish is definitely the right word." Amelia laughed weakly. "I had this romantic notion of the West, of starting over somewhere new where no one knew me. I did not think about what would happen if things went wrong. Well, you are here now, and you are going to recover. We will figure out the rest later." August stood and checked the broth, which was beginning to develop a rich, savory smell. He let it simmer for another 40 minutes, occasionally skimming the fat from the surface, until the liquid had taken on a deep golden color. Then he strained it carefully into a clean bowl and carried it back to the bedroom. Amelia's eyes fixed on the bowl with desperate hunger, but August sat down and positioned himself between her and the food. "Listen to me very carefully. You are going to eat this broth, but you are going to do it slowly. I am going to feed you myself, 1 spoonful at a time with pauses in between. I know it is going to be torture, but this is the only safe way." "I can feed myself," she protested weakly. "Not this time. If I give you the bowl, you will gulp it down and make yourself very sick. Please, Amelia, let me do this right." She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. August helped her sit up, propping pillows behind her back, then dipped the spoon into the broth. He blew on it gently to cool it, then brought it to her lips. Small sip. The moment the warm, salty liquid touched her tongue, Amelia made a sound that was almost a sob. She swallowed and immediately opened her mouth for more, but August pulled the spoon back. "Wait, just 30 seconds. "This is torture," she whispered, but there was no real anger in her voice, only desperate need. "I know, but I am not going to let you hurt yourself." He counted to 30, watching the clock on the wall, then gave her another small spoonful, and then another. They fell into a rhythm, August patiently feeding her while Amelia struggled with every fiber of her being not to beg for more faster. He could see the effort it took her to submit to this slow process, and he respected her for it. After she had consumed about half the bowl, August set it aside. "That is enough for now." "No, please, I can eat more. I feel better already." "I am sure you do, but your stomach has been empty for days. If we give it too much too fast, it will rebel. In an hour you can have the rest, and then tonight I will make you something more substantial." "But we have to be patient." Amelia slumped back against the pillows, tears of frustration rolling down her cheeks. "I have never been this hungry in my entire life. It hurts so much." August reached out and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "I know, but you are doing so well. In a few days you will be able to eat normally again, I promise." She looked down at their joined hands, his large and calloused, hers small and trembling. "Why are you being so kind to me? You do not know anything about me. I could be a terrible person." "You are not a terrible person. You are someone who needed help, and I was in a position to give it. That is all that matters." He released her hand slowly. "Now rest. I am going to sit right here, and in an hour you will have more broth." Amelia closed her eyes, but August could tell she was not really sleeping, just conserving her energy. He sat in the chair and watched her, thinking about the strange turn his day had taken. This morning, he had woken up planning to mend fences and tend his small herd of cattle. Now he had a beautiful, starving woman in his bed, and he felt a protective surge unlike anything he had experienced before. An hour passed slowly. August used the time to prepare more food for later, cutting vegetables and setting them aside for soup. He checked on his animals and made sure the horses had water. When he came back inside, Amelia was awake, watching the door with anxious eyes. "You came back," she said softly. "Of course I came back. I told you I would." He picked up the bowl of broth and sat down beside her again. Ready for the rest. This time, the feeding went more smoothly. Amelia seemed to have accepted the necessity of going slowly, and she waited patiently between spoonfuls, even though August could see the hunger still burning in her eyes. When the bowl was empty, he set it aside and gave her more water. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Better. Still hungry, but not quite so desperate. My head is clearer." She looked at him with gratitude shining in her honey-colored eyes. "You saved my life today, August." "You would have done the same for me." "I would like to think so, but I am not sure I would have known how. You clearly have experience with this." August nodded slowly. "I have seen it before. When I first came to Utah, I worked for a man who ran a way station on the trail to California. We got travelers who had misjudged their supplies, pushed too hard, gotten lost. Some of them were in bad shape when they arrived. I learned quickly that the kindest thing you can do for a starving person is to feed them slowly, even when every instinct tells you to give them everything they want. It must have been hard, holding back when you wanted to help more. It was, but the alternative was worse. I saw a man once who found his brother after the brother had been lost for a week without food. He gave him a huge meal out of love, and the brother died that night. His system could not handle it." August's voice was grim. "That taught me the hard lesson that sometimes love means being cruel in the moment to prevent greater harm." Amelia shuddered. "I am grateful you know what you are doing." As the afternoon wore on, August continued to care for her with meticulous attention. He brought cool cloths to soothe her sunburned face, gave her small amounts of water at regular intervals, and gradually allowed her to have more food. By evening he had made a simple vegetable soup with tiny pieces of soft bread soaked in the broth, and he fed this to her spoonful by spoonful, still controlling the pace. "This is delicious," Amelia said after one particularly flavorful spoonful. "You are a better cook than I am." "I doubt that. But necessity makes you learn quickly out here. When you live alone, you either learn to cook or you starve." He smiled at her, and she found herself smiling back. "Do you live alone by choice?" "Partly. I came to Utah 3 years ago to make my own way. My family is back in New York, but there were too many of us and not enough opportunity. I wanted land of my own, a place to build something. St. George seemed like a good spot, far enough from the main trails to be peaceful but close enough to town for supplies." He paused. "It has been lonely sometimes, but I have never regretted it. Do you ever think about going back? Sometimes, but this is my home now." He fed her another spoonful of soup. "What about you? What was your life like before you ran?" Amelia's expression grew distant. "Comfortable but suffocating. My parents are good people in their way, but they see daughters as assets to be traded for social position. I have 2 sisters, both married to wealthy men they barely tolerate. I was supposed to follow the same path, but I could not. Thomas, my intended, he had cruel eyes. The way he looked at me made my skin crawl. And I heard stories from his first wife's maid before she died. She died." August's voice was sharp. "Officially, she fell down the stairs, but the maid said there were bruises, that she had been frightened all the time." Amelia's hands clenched into fists. "I could not marry him. I could not spend my life being afraid in my own home. So I took what money I could and ran. I know it was wrong to steal from my parents, but they would never have let me leave otherwise. You did what you had to do to survive." "That is not wrong." August set the bowl aside, the soup finished. "You are very brave, Amelia Fairweather." "I do not feel brave. I feel like a coward who ran away instead of facing her problems. Sometimes running is the bravest thing you can do." He stood and stretched, his back cracking. "You should sleep now. Real sleep, not just dozing. Tomorrow you can have more substantial food and we will start building your strength back up." "Where will you sleep?" Amelia asked, looking around the small house. "I have a bedroll. I will be fine on the floor." "That does not seem fair." "This is your bed. And you are the one recovering from starvation. I am not arguing about this." His tone was gentle but final. "Now rest. I will be right here if you need anything." Amelia wanted to protest more, but exhaustion was pulling at her like a heavy blanket. She settled back into the pillows and closed her eyes, and within minutes, she was deeply asleep. August watched her for a while, noting how the harsh lines of pain had eased from her face, how her breathing had deepened and steadied. She was going to be all right. He had gotten to her in time. He unrolled his bedding on the floor and lay down, but sleep was slow to come. His mind kept returning to the woman in his bed, to her honey-colored eyes and determined chin, to the courage it must have taken to run from everything she knew toward an uncertain future. He had told her the truth when he said he found his life lonely sometimes. Having another person in the house, even under these circumstances, felt unexpectedly right. The next morning, August woke before dawn as always. He checked on Amelia, who was still sleeping peacefully, then went out to tend to his animals. His ranch was small but well-maintained, with a dozen cattle, 3 horses, some chickens, and a vegetable garden that he tended carefully in the Utah heat. He milked the cow, gathered eggs, and fed the horses, his mind already planning what to make for Amelia's breakfast. When he came back inside, she was awake, struggling to sit up. He hurried to her side and helped her, noting that she had more strength than yesterday but was still very weak. "Good morning. How do you feel?" "Better. Hungry but not desperately so, and I need to." She trailed off, blushing. August understood immediately. "There is an outhouse behind the house, but I do not think you are strong enough to walk there yet. I have a chamber pot under the bed. I will step outside and give you privacy." "Thank you." Her blush deepened, but there was gratitude in her eyes. He went outside and waited, giving her ample time, then knocked on the door before entering. Amelia was sitting on the edge of the bed, looking embarrassed but relieved. "I am sorry. This is so improper. This is survival. Propriety takes a back seat to necessity out here." He took the pot without comment and carried it outside to empty and clean, then returned and washed his hands thoroughly. "Now, let us see about breakfast." He made her soft scrambled eggs with a little milk and butter, along with more broth and weak tea. He continued to supervise her eating carefully, making sure she did not rush, and was pleased to see that her body was accepting the food well. She ate everything he gave her without any signs of nausea or discomfort. "This is wonderful," Amelia said, closing her eyes in appreciation. "Real food. I did not think anything would ever taste this good again. By tomorrow, you should be able to eat more normally, though you will need to take it easy for at least a week. Your body has been through trauma." He collected the dishes and took them to the kitchen. "Do you feel strong enough to sit in a chair for a while? It would be good for you to move around a little." With his help, Amelia made it to the rocking chair by the window. Her legs were unsteady, but she managed it, and she sighed with relief to be upright and looking out at something other than the ceiling. The view from August's house was spectacular, red rock formations rising against the brilliant blue sky, with green vegetation clinging to life in the valleys. "It is beautiful here," she said softly. "Different from anything I knew back east, but beautiful. That is why I stayed. The land here is hard, but it is honest. It does not pretend to be anything other than what it is." August leaned against the doorframe, watching her. "What do you want to do, Amelia? Once you are recovered, I mean. Do you still want to reach California?" She was quiet for a long time. "I do not know. The truth is, I had no real plan beyond getting away from Philadelphia and Thomas. My aunt in Sacramento was just a destination, something to aim for. I have not seen her in years, and I do not even know if she would welcome me." She turned to look at him. "What do you think I should do?" "I think you should take time to heal and decide what you truly want. There is no rush. You are safe here." He hesitated, then added, "You can stay as long as you need to. But I cannot impose on you indefinitely. You have your own life, your own work. I have a ranch that mostly takes care of itself and more supplies than I need. And if I am being honest, the company is nice." He smiled at her. "Let us take this one day at a time. Focus on getting your strength back, and we will figure out the rest later." Over the following days, August continued to care for Amelia with patient dedication. He gradually increased her portions, always watching carefully to make sure her body was handling the food properly. He made her nourishing meals of stew and roasted vegetables, fresh bread and butter, soft cheese and fruit preserves. He helped her take short walks around the house, supporting her when her legs grew tired, and he sat with her in the evenings, telling her stories about his life in Utah. Amelia, in turn, began to help with small tasks as her strength returned. She mended his worn shirts, using needle and thread from his modest sewing kit. She helped prepare vegetables for meals, sitting at the kitchen table and peeling potatoes while August cooked. She fed the chickens and gathered eggs, delighting in the simple domestic tasks that felt so different from her constrained life back east. As the days passed, they talked endlessly. August told her about growing up in New York as the youngest of 6 children. about his Greek immigrant parents who had worked themselves to exhaustion to give their children opportunities. He spoke of the moment he decided to head west, against his mother's tears and his father's warnings, driven by a need to prove himself on his own terms. Amelia shared her own story in greater detail, painting a picture of a life of privilege that felt like a gilded cage. She described the endless social obligations, the constant scrutiny, the way every action was judged for its potential to elevate or damage the family's standing. She spoke of her love of reading, how she would sneak books about adventure and exploration into her room and dream of places far from Philadelphia's suffocating drawing rooms. "I used to read about people who went west and started over," she said one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the rocks in shades of orange and gold. "It seemed so romantic, so free. I thought if I could just get here, everything would be perfect." "And now you know it is not that simple," August said gently. "Now I know it is harder and more dangerous than I ever imagined, but also more real. Back home, everything was about appearances, about what people would think. Here, what matters is whether you can survive, whether you can help your neighbor, whether you can make something grow in harsh soil." She turned to look at him, her honey-colored eyes reflecting the sunset. "I like that honesty. I like feeling like my life depends on real things, not just social niceties." August found himself unable to look away from her. Over the past week and a half, he had watched her transform from a desperate, starving woman into someone vibrant and alive. Her sunburn had faded to a golden tan, her eyes were clear and bright, and she moved with increasing confidence. She was beautiful, yes, but it was more than that. There was a strength in her, a determination that called to something deep in his chest. "You are staring," Amelia said, but she was smiling. "I apologize. I was just thinking that you have recovered remarkably well. Thanks to you, if you had not found me, if you had not known how to feed me properly." She trailed off, shuddering. "I owe you my life, August. You owe me nothing. But I am glad I found you. These past days have been some of the best I have had since coming to Utah." He stood abruptly, suddenly nervous. "I should check on the animals before it gets full dark." He escaped to the barn, his heart pounding. What was he thinking? Amelia was a woman of breeding and education, from a wealthy family back east. He was a rancher, the son of immigrants, living a hard life in a harsh land. She had stayed this long because she needed to recover, but once she was fully healed, she would leave. She would reach California and her aunt, or perhaps even return east. She had no reason to stay in St. George with him. But when he returned to the house, Amelia had made tea and was waiting for him on the porch. She handed him a cup and their fingers brushed, sending a spark of electricity up his arm. "I wanted to thank you," she said softly. "Not just for saving me, but for treating me like a person, not a burden or a charity case. You have been so kind. You have been easy to be kind to." August sat down beside her, maintaining a careful distance. "What are you thinking about for your future?" Amelia was quiet for a long moment, staring out at the darkening landscape. "I have been thinking that maybe California is not where I need to be. My aunt is a stranger now, and I would be imposing on her the way I am imposing on you, but at least you." She stopped, seeming to struggle with her words. "At least I what? At least you want me here, I think." She looked at him uncertainly. "You have said I can stay as long as I need to, and you seem happy to have the company. But if I am wrong, if I am reading this situation incorrectly, please tell me. I do not want to be a burden." "You are not a burden, Amelia, you are." He stopped, not sure how to finish that sentence. What was she to him? A guest, a friend, something more? "You are someone I have come to care about. These past days, having you here, talking with you, it has made me realize how isolated I have been, How much I have missed having someone to share my life with. I have been thinking the same thing. Amelia set down her teacup with trembling hands. Back in Philadelphia, I thought I wanted freedom and adventure. But what I really wanted was to feel like my life mattered, like I was more than just a decorative object to be traded between families. Here, helping with the ranch, working beside you, I feel useful. I feel alive. You are alive, more alive than anyone I have ever met. August reached out and took her hand, unable to stop himself. Amelia, I know this is too soon. I know we have only known each other for less than 2 weeks. But I need you to know that if you wanted to stay, not just for a while but permanently, I would welcome it, more than welcome it. Amelia's breath caught. August, are you saying? I am saying that I have fallen in love with you. The words came out in a rush, unstoppable. I know it is foolish and fast, and you probably think I am insane. You are educated and refined, and I am just a rancher trying to make a living in the Utah desert. But these days with you have been the happiest of my life, and the thought of you leaving, of never seeing you again, it feels unbearable. For a long moment, Amelia just stared at him, her honey-colored eyes wide with shock. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face. You are not insane. Or if you are, then so am I, because I have fallen in love with you too. August felt his heart nearly stop. You have. I have. I did not expect it. I thought after everything with Thomas, after running away, I would never want to trust a man again. But you are nothing like him. You are kind and patient and gentle. You saved my life and asked nothing in return. You treated me with respect and dignity even when I was at my lowest. How could I not fall in love with you? Tears were streaming down her face now. But August, I have nothing to offer you. No money, no prospects. I am a runaway with nothing but the clothes on my back. You have yourself, and that is everything I want. August pulled her closer, bringing their joined hands to his chest so she could feel his heart pounding. I do not care about money or prospects. I care about waking up every morning knowing you are here. I care about working beside you, talking with you, building a life with you, if you will have me. Yes, the word came out as a sob. Yes, I will have you. I want nothing more than to stay here with you, to be your partner, your wife if you will have me. Wife. August breathed the word like a prayer. Then he was pulling her into his arms, holding her close while she cried happy tears against his chest. Amelia Fairweather, will you marry me? Will you stay here in St. George and be my wife? Yes, 1,000 times yes. She pulled back to look at him, her face wet with tears and glowing with joy. I never imagined when I ran away that I would find this. Find you. It feels like a dream. If it is a dream, then we are both dreaming it. August cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs gently wiping away her tears. May I kiss you, please? He kissed her softly, reverently, pouring all his love and hope into that gentle connection. Amelia kissed him back, her arms winding around his neck, and in that moment, August felt like his entire life had been leading to this. This woman, this place, this perfect moment of connection under the Utah stars. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Amelia laughed. I cannot believe this is real. 2 weeks ago, I was dying in the desert. Now I am engaged to the man who saved me. We should probably wait a bit before we actually get married, August said practically, though he was grinning like a fool. Give you time to be completely sure this is what you want. Let people in town get used to the idea that you are staying. People in town. Amelia looked suddenly nervous. I have not even thought about that. What will they think, me living here with you unmarried? Probably nothing good, August admitted. St. George is a small town and people talk. We will need to be careful about propriety, at least until we can get married. Maybe I can ask if one of the families in town would be willing to take you in as a boarder for a while, until the wedding. Amelia's face fell. I do not want to leave here. I do not want to leave you. I do not want you to leave either, but I also do not want your reputation damaged. You have already been through so much." He thought for a moment. "Let me talk to Reverend Mitchell. He is a good man, reasonable. Maybe he can help us figure out how to do this properly." The next morning, August rode into St. George proper, leaving Amelia at the ranch with firm instructions to rest and not overwork herself. The town was small, just a collection of buildings clustered around a main street, but it had what a community needed: a church, a general store, a blacksmith, a doctor's office. August went straight to the church, a simple wooden structure that Reverend Mitchell presided over with gentle authority. The Reverend was a man in his 50s, gray-haired and kind-eyed, who had come to Utah to minister to the growing community. He listened without judgment as August explained the situation: the starving woman he had found, how he had cared for her, how they had fallen in love. "You are right to be concerned about propriety," Reverend Mitchell said when August finished. "But I also understand the dilemma. Miss Fairweather needs time to recover fully before making such a permanent decision as marriage, but you also need to protect her reputation and yours." He thought for a moment. "Here is what I propose. I will come out to your ranch today and meet Miss Fairweather. If I find her to be of good character and sincere in her intentions, I will announce in church this Sunday that you two are betrothed, with the wedding to take place in 1 month's time. That gives her time to be certain of her decision, and it makes your living situation more acceptable to the community. In the meantime, I would suggest asking Mrs. Patterson to come stay at your ranch as a chaperone. She is a widow who would welcome the extra income, and her presence would prevent any scandal." August felt relief wash over him. "That is a perfect solution. Thank you, Reverend. Let me get my horse and I will ride back with you. I want to meet this young woman who has captured your heart so quickly." The ride back to the ranch took less than an hour. When they arrived, Amelia was in the garden, weeding the vegetable patch. She looked up at the sound of horses and quickly brushed the dirt from her hands, looking nervous as August approached with the Reverend. "Amelia, this is Reverend Mitchell. Reverend, this is Amelia Fairweather." Amelia curtsied, her manners ingrained despite everything. "It is a pleasure to meet you, Reverend. And you, my dear. August has told me your story, quite an ordeal you have been through." The Reverend's eyes were shrewd but kind as he studied her. "He also tells me that you two wish to marry." "We do." Amelia glanced at August, who gave her an encouraging nod. "I know it seems fast, and I know my situation is irregular, but I love him, Reverend. He saved my life, and in the process, he gave me a future I never dared hope for." "Love can bloom quickly under extraordinary circumstances," the Reverend said, "but it must also be tested by time and the ordinary challenges of daily life. August has proposed a solution that I think is wise, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on it." August explained the plan: the announcement of their engagement, the 1-month waiting period, the chaperone. Amelia listened carefully, and August watched her face, trying to gauge her reaction. "I think it is a good plan," she said finally. "I understand the need to protect both our reputations, and truthfully, a month will give me time to be absolutely certain this is what I want. Not that I have doubts," she added quickly, looking at August, "but as you say, Reverend, we need to test this by time. Then it is settled." Reverend Mitchell smiled. "I will make the announcement on Sunday, and I will speak to Mrs. Patterson about staying here as chaperone. In the meantime, I trust you both to behave honorably." After the Reverend left, August and Amelia stood together in the yard, a little shy now that everything was official. "Are you truly all right with waiting a month?" August asked. "I am. It is wise, and it will give us time to prepare properly." Amelia smiled up at him. Besides, it will give me time to make myself a wedding dress. Unless you think I should wear my ruined traveling outfit, August laughed. I think we can do better than that. There is a seamstress in town who can help you. And I need to go to the bank and make sure my finances are in order and fix up the house a bit, make it more suitable for a wife. I like the house as it is, but I would not say no to a few improvements. Amelia reached out and took his hand. August, thank you for doing this right. It would have been easier to just let things continue as they were, consequences be damned, but I appreciate that you want to protect me. I will always protect you. That is my promise to you, from now until the day I die. The month that followed was the busiest and happiest of August's life. Mrs. Patterson arrived 3 days after the announcement, a practical woman in her 60s, who immediately took charge of making the house more suitable for a bride. She moved into the small second room that August had been using for storage, and she and Amelia worked together to clean, organize, and beautify the space. August, meanwhile, threw himself into improving the ranch. He fixed the roof, which had been leaking in one corner. He built a larger chicken coop and bought more laying hens. He expanded the garden and reinforced the fences. He went to town and purchased real glass windows to replace the oiled paper that had served him until now. He wanted everything to be perfect for Amelia, wanted to show her that he could provide for her, that she would never have to worry about going hungry again. Amelia, working with the seamstress in town, created a simple but beautiful wedding dress from cream-colored cotton. It was nothing like the elaborate silk gown she would have worn for her Philadelphia wedding, but it was perfect for a Utah ranch wedding. She also made new curtains for the house, embroidered pillowcases, and knitted warm blankets for the coming winter. They spent their evenings sitting on the porch with Mrs. Patterson as chaperone, talking about their plans for the future. August wanted to expand his herd, maybe buy some sheep as well. Amelia wanted to start a larger vegetable garden and perhaps sell produce in town. They talked about children, both agreeing they wanted a family but were willing to let that happen in its own time. The wedding day arrived on a perfect September morning, cool and clear. The ceremony was held in the church, with what seemed like the entire population of St. George in attendance. Amelia walked down the aisle on the arm of Reverend Mitchell, since she had no family present, and August felt his breath catch at the sight of her in her cream dress, her dark hair pinned up with wildflowers, her honey-colored eyes shining with love and joy. They spoke their vows in clear, strong voices, promising to love and honor each other for the rest of their lives. When Reverend Mitchell pronounced them husband and wife, August kissed Amelia with all the pent-up longing of the past month, and the congregation erupted in applause and cheers. The reception was held in the church hall, with food provided by the community. There was roasted meat and fresh bread, pies and cakes, and dancing to the music of a fiddle player who had recently arrived in town. August danced with his wife, holding her close, marveling that this beautiful, brave woman was his. "Are you happy?" he whispered into her ear as they swayed to the music. "I have never been happier in my entire life," Amelia whispered back. "You are everything I never knew I needed." When the sun began to set, they rode back to the ranch together, alone for the first time as husband and wife. Mrs. Patterson had discreetly gone to stay with a friend for the night, giving them privacy. August helped Amelia down from the horse and carried her over the threshold, making her laugh with delight. "Welcome home, Mrs. Xenakis," he said, setting her gently on her feet. "Mrs. Xenakis," Amelia repeated, testing the name. "I like the sound of that, though it will take some getting used to." "We have the rest of our lives for you to get used to it." August cupped her face in his hands, looking deep into her eyes. "I love you, Amelia, more than I ever thought it was possible to love anyone." I love you too. You saved me, August. Not just from starvation, but from a life that was slowly killing my spirit. You showed me what it means to be truly alive. She rose on her toes and kissed him, a kiss that promised a lifetime of love and partnership. That night, they came together as husband and wife, learning each other with gentle touches and whispered words. August treated Amelia with the same patient care he had shown when feeding her that first day, making sure she felt safe and cherished. And Amelia, in turn, gave herself to him completely, holding nothing back, finally free to love without fear. The years that followed were filled with hard work, challenges, and deep joy. The ranch prospered under their combined efforts. August's cattle herd grew, and Amelia's garden became famous in St. George for producing the best vegetables in the territory. They became pillars of the community, known for their generosity and their willingness to help neighbors in need. 3 years after their wedding, Amelia gave birth to their first child, a strong, healthy boy they named Andrew after August's father. August cried when he held his son for the first time, overwhelmed with gratitude for the family he had built. Amelia, exhausted but radiant, watched him with their baby and knew she had made the right choice all those years ago when she decided to stay. 2 years later, they had a daughter, Mary, with her mother's honey-colored eyes and her father's determined chin. Andrew was initially uncertain about sharing his parents' attention, but he soon became fiercely protective of his little sister. August and Amelia watched their children grow, teaching them to work the land, to treat others with kindness, to value honesty and hard work. The children heard the story of how their parents met many times, always told with love and gratitude. "Your father saved my life," Amelia would say, stroking Andrew's hair or adjusting Mary's dress. "I was so hungry I could not stand upright, and he fed me slowly so I would not get sick. He took care of me when I had nothing and no one, and he loved me when I could not even love myself. And your mother saved me too," August would add. "I did not know how lonely I was until she came into my life. She brought light and laughter and love to this ranch, and she made me believe in miracles." Amelia wrote to her family in Philadelphia, telling them she was alive and well and married. The response took months to arrive, and when it did, it was mixed. Her mother was relieved she was safe but hurt that she had run away. Her father was angry about the stolen money but grudgingly admitted he was glad she had not married Thomas, who had since been arrested for beating his second wife nearly to death. Her sisters were envious of her freedom and curious about her life in the Wild West. She did not return to Philadelphia, but she maintained a correspondence with her mother and sisters, the letters growing warmer over time. Eventually, her youngest sister, tired of society life, came to visit and ended up staying, marrying a rancher from a neighboring property. The two sisters became close again, bonded by their shared escape from the suffocating world they had grown up in. August's family also heard about his marriage, and his mother sent a long letter expressing her joy that he had found love. She sent the quilts that now covered the bed he shared with Amelia, along with Greek recipes and family heirlooms. His brothers and sisters wrote regularly, sharing news of their lives back east, and August felt connected to them even across the vast distance. As the years passed, St. George grew and changed. More people arrived, drawn by the promise of land and opportunity. August and Amelia became known as the couple who had one of the first successful ranches in the area, and they were often asked for advice by newcomers. They gave it freely, along with food, supplies, and encouragement. They never forgot what it was like to be desperate and alone, and they made sure no one in their community suffered the way Amelia had suffered. On their 10th anniversary, August took Amelia back to the spot where he had first found her, near the old fence post at the edge of his property. It was sunset, the sky painted in brilliant shades of orange and gold, the same colors as that first day. "You ever regret it?" he asked, holding her hand as they stood looking out over the land they had built together. "Staying here instead of going to California or back to Philadelphia?" "Never, not for a single moment." Amelia leaned against him, fitting perfectly into his side as she always had. "This is where I belong, with you, with our children on this land. This is my home." "You are my home," August said, pulling her close. "You have been from the moment I found you. I knew even then that you were going to change my life. We changed each other's lives. You showed me what real love looks like, what partnership and respect and kindness mean. You gave me freedom and purpose and a reason to wake up grateful every morning." She turned in his arms to face him. "I was so lost, August, so desperate and afraid, and you not only saved my life, you gave me a life worth living. You did the same for me. I just did not know I needed saving until you arrived." He kissed her softly, a kiss that held 10 years of love and a promise of many more to come. "Thank you for taking a chance on a lonely rancher with a small ranch and big dreams. Thank you for feeding me slowly, for taking care of me, for seeing past my circumstances to the person I could become." Amelia smiled through happy tears. "I love you, August Xenakis. Today, tomorrow, and forever." As they stood there watching the sunset, holding each other close, the years continued to unfold before them. Andrew grew into a fine young man who took over much of the ranch work, eventually marrying a schoolteacher from town and building his own house on the property. Mary became a teacher herself, beloved by the children of St. George, before marrying a doctor who came to set up practice in the growing town. Both children stayed close to their parents, building their lives nearby, creating a true family legacy. August and Amelia had 2 more children, a boy and another girl, each one loved and cherished, each one raised with the values their parents held dear. The ranch continued to prosper, becoming one of the most successful in southern Utah. But more important than the material success was the love that filled every corner of their home, the laughter of grandchildren that eventually rang through the house, the sense of belonging and purpose that sustained them through hard times and good. When August and Amelia were in their 60s, sitting on the porch of the house he had built so many years ago, watching their grandchildren play in the yard, Amelia said, "I never imagined my life could be this full, this rich with love and meaning." "Neither did I," August replied, his hand still seeking hers after all these years. "But I am grateful every day that you stumbled onto my property, half dead from hunger, that I had the sense to feed you slowly instead of letting you gorge yourself, that we had the courage to build this life together. We were both brave," Amelia said. "Brave enough to love when love seemed impossible, brave enough to trust when trust seemed foolish, brave enough to build something real and lasting in a harsh and unforgiving land." They grew old together, their love deepening and strengthening with each passing year. They faced droughts and hard winters, the loss of friends and the joy of new grandchildren, the challenges of aging bodies and the comfort of a love that never wavered. When August's hands grew too stiff to work the ranch effectively, Andrew took over completely, running it with the same care and dedication his father had shown. When Amelia's eyes grew too weak to do the fine needlework she had always loved, Mary brought her audiobooks and sat with her, reading aloud the adventure stories her mother had always cherished. On a spring morning in 1920, when August was 73 and Amelia was 71, they sat together on the porch as they had done thousands of times before. The Utah desert bloomed around them, wildflowers covering the red earth in a riot of color. Their children and grandchildren were coming for Sunday dinner as they did every week, and the house hummed with anticipation. "You know what day it is?" Amelia asked, her voice still strong despite her age. "Sunday," August replied, smiling at her. "More than that. It is 42 years to the day since you found me collapsed against that fence post. 42 years since you saved my life." August turned to look at her, this woman who had been his partner, his love, his everything for more than 4 decades. Her dark hair was now silver, her face lined with the marks of a life well lived, but her honey-colored eyes were still as bright and beautiful as they had been that first day. 42 years, he repeated, "the best years of my life. All because I decided to mend a fence that day instead of doing something else. All because you were brave enough to keep walking even when you had nothing left. All because we both believed in the possibility of love." "I would do it all again," Amelia said, reaching for his hand. "Every hard moment, every challenge, every fear, I would face it all again for the life we have built together. As would I." August brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "You are the best thing that ever happened to me, Amelia Xenakis, my miracle in the desert. And you are mine. My rescuer, my love, my home." They sat together in comfortable silence, hands joined, hearts beating in rhythm after 42 years of partnership. Around them, their family began to arrive, filling the house with noise and laughter and love. Children ran through the yard, grandchildren called out greetings, and the smell of cooking food drifted from the kitchen where Mary and her daughters were preparing the meal. This was the life they had built from almost nothing, from a moment of desperate hunger and a decision to show kindness. From the slow, patient feeding that had saved Amelia's life and the love that had grown from that act of care. From 2 people who had been brave enough to choose each other when the world said it was too fast, too risky, too unlikely to last. But it had lasted. Through decades of hard work and harder times, through joy and sorrow, through the raising of children and the building of a legacy. It had lasted because they had chosen each other every single day, in small ways and large, in the mundane moments and the momentous ones. It had lasted because they had never forgotten that first connection, that moment when August had knelt beside a starving woman and promised to help her, and she had trusted him enough to accept. As the sun set over the Utah desert that evening, painting the rocks in the same orange and gold hues that had witnessed their first meeting and their 10th anniversary and countless other important moments, August and Amelia sat surrounded by the family they had created. They told the story of how they met one more time, for the benefit of the youngest grandchildren who were hearing it for the first time. "She was so hungry she could not stand upright," August said, his voice still strong despite his age. "And I fed her slowly so she would not get sick." "And he saved my life," Amelia added, squeezing his hand. "In more ways than one." The grandchildren listened with wide eyes, amazed by the romance and adventure of it all. The older children and grandchildren, who had heard the story many times, smiled and exchanged knowing glances. They all understood that this was more than just a story about survival and rescue. It was a testament to the power of kindness, the possibility of love, and the strength that comes from 2 people committing to build a life together no matter what obstacles they face. As the evening drew to a close and the family prepared to head home, Andrew pulled his father aside. "Dad, I want you to know that Mary and we have been talking. We want to make sure the ranch stays in the family for generations. We want our children and their children to know this land, to know the story of how you and Mom built everything from nothing." August felt tears prick his eyes. "That means more to me than you can know, son. This land, this ranch, it is not just a piece of property. It is the physical representation of the life your mother and I built together. Knowing it will continue, that our great-grandchildren will walk this same earth, it makes me feel like our love will live on forever. It will, Dad. Love like yours and Mom's, it does not just disappear. It gets passed down, generation after generation. We see it in the way you look at each other, the way you still hold hands after all these years. You taught us what real love looks like. After everyone left, August and Amelia prepared for bed, moving through the familiar rituals of a lifetime together. As they lay in the bed covered with his mother's quilts, August pulled Amelia close, and she rested her head on his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I love you," he whispered into the darkness. "More today than yesterday, and I will love you even more tomorrow." "I love you too," Amelia whispered back. "Thank you for every day of these 42 years. Thank you for being patient with me, for feeding me slowly, for teaching me what love really means. Thank you for trusting me, for staying, for choosing me and this life over everything else you could have had." They fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, as they had done for more than 15,000 nights, their love a constant in a changing world. And in the morning, they would wake up together again, grateful for another day, another chance to show their love, another opportunity to build on the foundation they had laid all those years ago when a cowboy found a starving woman and decided to help her, slowly and carefully, never knowing that in saving her life, he would also save his own. The legacy they built together lasted far beyond their own lifetimes. The ranch remained in the family for generations, a testament to hard work, dedication, and love. The story of how August and Amelia met became family legend, told and retold to children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, each generation finding inspiration in the tale of desperate hunger, patient care, and love that bloomed in the harsh beauty of the Utah desert. In St. George, they were remembered long after they passed as pillars of the early community, as people who embodied the best of what the West could be. Not the violence and lawlessness that sometimes characterized frontier life, but the kindness, the generosity, the willingness to help a stranger in need. They were remembered for their love, which had been a beacon of hope and stability in uncertain times. Their graves lay side by side in the St. George Cemetery, under the shade of a cottonwood tree that August had planted in their early years together. The headstones were simple, bearing their names, their dates, and a single inscription that captured the essence of their relationship. She was hungry, he fed her. They loved each other forever. And on summer evenings, when the desert bloomed with wildflowers and the rocks glowed orange and gold in the setting sun, if you stood at the old fence post where August had first found Amelia all those years ago, you could almost feel their presence. The love that had started there had been so strong, so true, that it seemed to have soaked into the very earth itself, becoming part of the land they had loved and worked and built upon. It was a love story for the ages, born of desperation and kindness, nurtured with patience and care, and lasting a lifetime and beyond. It proved that sometimes the greatest love stories begin not with grand gestures or dramatic declarations, but with simple acts of human kindness. With a man who knew how to feed a starving woman slowly, carefully, ensuring her survival. With a woman who was brave enough to trust, to stay, to build a new life in an unfamiliar place. August and Amelia Xenakis had found each other in the most unlikely of circumstances, and they had created something beautiful and lasting from almost nothing. Their story became a reminder that love can bloom anywhere, even in the harsh desert, as long as two people are willing to be patient, to be kind, and to choose each other every single day. It was a story of survival and romance, of hardship and triumph, of two souls who found in each other exactly what they needed to become whole. And so their love lived on, in the land they had worked, in the family they had raised, in the community they had helped build, and in the story that would be told for generations to come. A story that began with 5 simple words. She was so hungry she could not stand upright, and ended with 5 more. They loved each other forever after. It was, in the end, the best kind of love story, one that was true, that was earned through patience and care, and that proved that even in the harshest environments, love can not only survive but thrive, creating beauty and meaning that lasts long after the lovers themselves have gone.